So again, today we are talking about the Intune suite and giving a brief overview of the Intune suite. Um, and we may even do some interactive polls to get kind of a pulse check on what y'all are thinking about, how you're perceiving the Intune suite, if you're thinking about deploying it in your environment. But we'll give you an overview, and then we'll also talk about continuous innovation in Windows. So um, let's keep it interactive. Ask questions. We will do our best to answer them. We don't have all of the answers yet, but we'll get started. So let's see. There we go. I was like, why does that slide look so weird? So for those who are not aware, as of March 1st, we announced the new Microsoft Intune Suite. And the Intune Suite is a collection of new features coming into the Intune platform. That are focused on what we kind of call advanced endpoint management. And so if you look at kind of this Intune suite holistically, you're going to kind of notice that we're targeting gaps that we've had in Intune for a long time. And a lot of customers really have to go out and find other vendors that will kind of supplement their environment to be able to achieve their goals. And a great example of this is the remote help feature. So remote help for a long time for Intune only devices. We could only use the Team Viewer application. And if I could remind everyone to go ahead and jump off of mute or jump on mute and turn off camera, that would be awesome. Yeah, so the remote help feature, it's now just a way to remote into managed devices, right? In the past, we've had integration with folks like TeamViewer and other applications, and that's been decent. But now we have a Microsoft native solution for that, and that is remote help. So that's one of the examples where you may have had to supplement with another vendor to be able to accomplish the goals that traditionally you wouldn't have had to do. But we have announced that remote help specifically is free for education, not the Intune suite, but just the remote help portion of the Intune suite is free for EDU customers, K-12 and high ed alike. We have some engineering work on the back end to light that up, but a message center post did go out. So you might look in your tenant and read that, but remote help is free for education customers, and we're super excited to bring that to you all. So remote help, it is exactly what it sounds like. It's just a remote assistance feature. It is based entirely on Intune platform. It's a cloud solution. So if you're familiar with Quick Assist, a lot of the same concept there, right? It's actually using a lot of the same design on the back end. But what's cool about this is that Quick Assist was kind of limited when it came to enterprise functionality. So we couldn't do things like elevation prompts. We can see that when we were assisting a customer. Remote help will have those elevation prompts, and we can enable that for our customers when we're doing remote sessions. We also have built-in RBAC controls within the Intune portal itself, so we can actually designate who can remote into certain systems and what capabilities they have at their disposal within the remote help functionality. And then we also have built-in auditing capabilities for remote help. So again, kind of stemming off of that foundation of Quick Assist, but it is a native solution for Intune, and we're really excited about that. So so that portion will be free for education customers as part of the larger Intune suite. The rest of the things that we will talk about, they will be a paid SKU, and we'll touch on that at the very end. Richard, anything you want to add on remote help?
Yeah, so you had mentioned that we've got the message center post that went out. So if you look in your tenants, you should see something from February 28th that went out. And that message center post actually includes the date when this should start to roll out. And so that should be after March 22nd, and it should complete sometime by mid-April. Now, what we're doing behind the scenes for remote help, because we've been talking about this for a while, and a lot of you guys probably haven't seen it in your tenants, or it says you need to sign up for a trial or you need to pay for it. There's some licensing stuff that we've been working on to get licenses backfilled to education tenants. But a lot of education customers are on what we call a Microsoft 365 original plan. So when you signed up for either A3 or A5 way back when, you were on the original plan, and you may have been given EMS licenses. So if you look in your licensing and you see enterprise plus mobility and security, and it says E3 or E5, that means you have Intune. You have just Microsoft Intune. You actually don't have Intune for education. Even though you're an education customer, you actually don't have a license for Intune for education. And so initially what we had done is we had actually given customers that had Intune for education, remote help was free for all of them. So if you had remote help, you probably had an Intune for education license in your tenant and everything was working. A little while back, we actually removed that license, or actually, I'm sorry, we removed that capability for Intune for education, and we decided that we're going to just take remote help licenses and backfill them to everyone's tenants. And that's the work that they're doing right now. And that's what they say by, between March 22nd and mid-April, that backfill work should be done, and you should have the licenses. However, there's some additional work that we're doing for those that are on M365 original plans. If you're on M365 Unified, and you have Intune for education, everything shows up as M365 A3 or A5 within your subscription, you'll have no problems with remote help. But those that are on original, we're still doing some additional backfill work to get those licenses trued up. And so that's what the delay has been. And so we're almost done with all that work. Hopefully, again, by mid-April, everyone that's in education that has A3, A5, or even A1, if you're on an A1 devices plan, which I don't think many of you guys probably are, but if you are, you also get remote help as well. So yeah, it's been a slog for us to get this done, but I'm seeing some light at the end of the tunnel here. So hopefully we'll have it all done soon.
Yeah, I agree. And there's more capabilities coming into the remote help feature. So what you have today will continue to grow. One of the things that we've announced is that we're bringing support not just for Windows, but for Android devices. So this will eventually be a cross-platform solution, right? And it's free for education. So huge win, and we're really excited about it. So hang tight, keep us posted, and maybe one day we can do another additional series on some deep dives into remote help. But awesome. So the rest of the components that make up the Intune suite are going to be Tunnel for mobile app management. So if you're not familiar with application management policies within Intune, we refer to it as mobile application management, MAM, but it leverages something called app protection policies or application protection policies. That is a way that we can actually secure organizational data on BYO devices typically, without enrolling those BYO devices directly into a full-fledged MDM management. Right. So think about like if you have a teacher who has downloaded the Outlook app on their phone and they want to access your corporate email. How do you as IT secure that email from leaving that device without actually enrolling that device, right? We have a lot of teachers that are like, I don't want IT to touch my phone. That's got personal data. I don't want them to see anything or whatever, right? It becomes a privacy discussion. And so mobile application management allows us to say, okay, well, we're not going to enroll your phone or manage your phone, but we do need to secure the content of the app. So this app that we are pushing down, or that you install on your own, we're going to wrap it. We're going to kind of containerize this and ensure that no sensitive information like student data, HIPAA information, IP, anything like that is going to come out of that email into another third-party app. And so we can wrap those controls around that. So what Tunnel for mobile application management is that we're going to say, okay, when you access this application, we're actually going to establish a secure connection to a VPN using something like MDE, where you're going to VPN back into your network or create a secure connection. And so so I don't know, from education customers, this has
Did we lose Garrett?
I think so. He's frozen on mine.
Garrett's frozen.
Yeah,
All right.
frozen here too.
Okay. Wait. Oh, are you back, Garrett?
I think so. I didn't realize I was gone.
Yeah, we lost you for
You're
about a minute.
Frozen, but you're fine now.
Okay. So the whole last half, you didn't hear me.
We just didn't hear you on the part where you're like, I don't know how many education customers are actually going to use this, but it's available. I think that's basically what you were saying.
That's right. That's basically what I'm saying. I think it's a niche case, but it's available. So you can actually trial this one today. Yep. Anything you want to add, Richard?
No, I think it's got its particular use cases, but I'm not sure it's going to be super widespread. You know, for certain customers, I'm sure it works well, but it's not going to be for everyone.
I definitely see this more corporate, but the next one is probably the biggest one. Well, one of two big ones, I think, that make up the Intune suite, and I think is going to add a lot of value for all customers, is endpoint privilege management. So endpoint privilege management will allow us to ensure that our users are standard users. If anyone has teachers out there that are local admins on the machines, I'm sorry. God bless you. But it's an ongoing effort by security teams and IT in general, to get users to be standard users on the machines, right? And we want to make sure that our end users are secure but productive. And so when it turns into a game of how do we prevent our teachers from doing X, Y, and Z? How do we secure our environment, but also enable them to do their job and do what they need to do? That's where endpoint privilege management is going to come in. So we can actually come in and put policies in place through the Intune console that allow you to assign these policies to specific applications that you trust, or that you want to ensure that end users can go in and run as a admin user, but without actually changing their local admin access. And so a great example of that is you have an application that requires local admin rights to be able to install. Instead of the teacher putting in a help desk ticket or calling into the help desk and saying, hey, I can't install this app, you can actually pre-approve these applications with policies. And what can happen is, and you can dictate the behavior, but you can actually go in and say, okay, if you just right click on this application and say run with elevated access, it'll actually bring up a new prompt, and it will allow some business justification to be put in, and submit a task up into the Intune team. So if you go into your Intune portal, you'll see a new approval flow. You can approve that, and the teacher can then go and install that application with local admin rights, but just for that process that you've approved for, instead of granting them local admin rights. So I think we've got a couple of different models on this, but EPM, I think, is going to be huge. I'm sure I did a bad job of explaining that scenario. I'm still learning my talk track, but I think you kind of get the gist. Richard, I'll let you add on anything if you want.
No, I mean, I think a lot of customers are using Beyond Trust. They're using CyberArk, various other third-party tools out there that paying a lot for them. And we've also seen, I remember back probably 2-3 years ago, I was working with one customer where I think they were using Beyond Trust, and it had some weird issues with Teams where it was like black screening. Anytime someone wanted to share video or share their desktop, it would black screen because of how the application interacted with Teams. So you have a lot of that when you're trying to kind of circumvent the controls within Windows. And so what a lot of customers have wanted from us is, can you provide a product that integrates with your product, Windows, that can make this easier? Because we're having to pay all this money for what effectively are workarounds. Because it's not like we're supporting these companies that are making these tools. They're trying to fill a gap that we've had for a long time. And so a lot of them haven't been secure. A lot of them haven't used documented APIs. Sometimes they use undocumented things. They do stuff that we don't support. And so something like endpoint privilege management, having us integrate that into the OS and have it integrated within Intune, makes the whole experience just a much better, more secure method.
Yep. And we'll expand it, right? I think, again, you're going to have those scenarios where you want those to be approved through the Intune console. Again, there's going to be some that you just trust, and you can just run that with an automated approval. So it's less work on IT on the back end, but that application, maybe it's not worth packaging up to distribute into your environment or something like that. You can easily create an EPM policy. So, you know what? I think it's a good question, Anthony, as far as does request for elevated access apply to print drivers? I've heard rumblings of yes, but I actually haven't seen it yet. I don't know if that's our intention right now. Do you, Richard or Scott?
I'm not sure 100% on what specific OS controls you're going to get with EPM. I'm hoping that print is there because print is usually one of the big ones for being able to install someone's like personal printer at home. If you don't have admin rights, can't do that. There's just a lot of other like things within the OS itself. Like fonts used to be. I'm not sure if fonts are still.
I don't think it is in Windows 11. It used to be though.
Yeah, it used to be a pretty big deal.
Yeah.
But there's that. So there's just like a lot of little random things. In terms of the applications, internally amongst our own team here, we've talked about like, well, why like with EPM, like, okay, sure, you can deploy an app, but I could also deploy self-service applications through the company portal or through Software Center and Config Manager. And as long as I do that, I've got to do the work somewhere to make these apps available, whether I do it through EPM or I do it through the company portal and make the applications available that way. There's somewhere that I'm doing the apps. But there might be some apps where you don't want to manage them. Like you don't want to get the app and upload it and then deploy it out to a group. It might just be an application that's for a specific business unit within your organization. And you still need to get the app though, because you can, in order to make sure that app can be installed, we're not just going to say, hey, foo.exe can install, right? We want to make sure that that's secure. So we want to look at like if that app is signed, which it should be.
Yeah, you'll have to sign it.
Then they don't have to sign it. It's being signed by the third party. So we'll take the certificate information from that and we'll look at how it was signed, and we'll use that signing information to upload that to EPM so that if a customer or if an end user is trying to install that app, we're going to check, and we could check the hash value as well of the file. So it's not as simple as, okay, well, foo.exe is allowed to run and we're just going to enable that. There's a lot more from a security standpoint that we're doing to allow it to run securely. So there's going to be some work on either end. It's just a matter of you determining which way you want to do that. But the other controls in the OS, I think, is where EPM becomes much more palatable, where it's like, okay, I'm going to pay for EPM so I can elevate my users to do things within Windows that admins typically need to have access to. And that's where I think you're going to get the biggest benefit out of EPM.
Yeah. And this will be just for Windows at the start, because obviously from Microsoft perspective, that's where we have a gap. But I think the intention long term, and I would love to hear from you all, is to bring that cross-platform as well. So I know I've talked to a couple of higher ed institutions where Mac OS is really prevalent. I think some of our competitors like Beyond Trust and CyberArk do support the other platforms, but I'll be curious to see if that's a need as well. Awesome. Advanced endpoint analytics. I think most of you all are familiar with endpoint analytics baked into kind of the core Intune suite today. But within the new Intune suite, the new advanced endpoint analytics, one of the things that we're bringing that I think is available right now, I think you can actually trial this right now if you spin up a trial of Intune suite, is anomalies. And the anomalies will detect certain anomalies in your environment, where whether it be applications that are failing or blue screens or other things like that in your environment, and it will kind of help you take a more proactive approach to some of these instances before it becomes kind of mainstream. So at least that's my understanding of anomalies right now. Richard, do you have anything you want to add?
Yeah, so a lot of the stuff that you have today in endpoint analytics is going to tie into the advanced endpoint analytics. It basically is just using machine learning and AI to be more proactive on alerting you. So you'll have various alerts like high, medium, low, kind of like with Defender for Endpoint if you're using that. And it'll tell you if there's a high alert, that means that you probably have an application that's crashing on a whole bunch of machines. And you might not have help desk tickets that have been spun up from your end users yet. And so you could see these alerts come in real time as these applications are crashing, the data is coming into Intune. You'll then be able to evaluate which of these alerts that are coming in are more important. So if there's an app that's crashing and it's got high severity, then you're going to go after that versus something that might have low severity. And so you'll just have to pick and choose which ones based on the severity you want to go after.
That makes sense. That's pretty cool, right?
Yeah, no, I think it's good because right now stuff in endpoint analytics is very, I don't want to say it's scattered, but it's not, it doesn't focus you on what's important. And so what the anomaly detection is going to do is it's going to give you that focus.
Awesome. I'm going to skip over cloud-based certificate management right now, and I'm going to jump to advanced app management on the upper right kind of quadrant, if you will. So advanced app management is going to basically be third-party patching for applications on Windows right now. So we will be able to patch your applications that are in your environment today, understand which applications are in your environment. We'll have kind of a curated source of those applications and be able to push out those patches, essentially push out those patches to your fleets to ensure that your applications are staying up to date. I think this has been a huge ask, especially as we've grown with our security teams and we think about vulnerability management, we even starting to throw in things like cyber insurance and ensuring that our risk factor is as low as possible. And Intune has been great at deploying applications, but not great at packaging up or patching applications. So being able to get it's not, I don't think it's fully automated, right? It's more of simplifying the identification of these patches, making them available and known to you so that you can take the initiative to go out and deploy those patches to those applications. Again, this has always been a need for our customers, and I think everyone is ecstatic to see this coming. So I'll show a little timeline here in a little bit, but the goal is to have a curated source of those applications that are in your environment and that you can easily push out. I'm thinking right now that the flow, and we don't know all the details here. This one's one of the ones where there's still a lot of question marks, um, but we will see that we're actually going to acquire the bits directly from the vendors themselves. And then we're going to help you create what those installation paths are and what the program details are and things like that, and deploy it out so that your end users have a really good experience. So again, I think it's not fully automating everything, but it is streamlining it to ensure that you can patch those applications quickly. I even think we'll see a little bit of MDE integration and being able to raise that up if those vulnerabilities are detected, and we can report that back. So that's pretty much all I know to say, Richard. I don't know if you have anything you want to add
Yeah,
there.
I just think to kind of solidify what you said there. So I think the two biggest things when we have to create a Win32 app in Intune is we have to download the content and upload it. So we have to repackage it. But then also finding what is the detection method going to be for the app? And if it's an MSI file, it's usually pretty easy. But if it's a exe, it's, you have to install the app, know where it's installed to, and then determine, okay, do I want to use a file folder to determine if it's installed, or do I want to use the registry? Multiple ways to handle how all of that is. But that's a lot of time that most IT admins have to deal with to do all that. So what advanced app management is going to do to solve that is we're actually going to create the app, and we're going to create the detection methods, the install, all of that stuff gets created for you. So now if you go through the experience today to go and find a store app in the new store experience in Intune, and you search for your app and it installs via Winget, that's pretty much the same kind of experience you're going to get with advanced app management. The only difference here is that it's not using Winget, it's using a completely separate repository. And so if we're providing you the content, the actual apps themselves, we're providing you the detection method, and we're providing you the install command, a lot of that, I think if you look at all the value that's in the suite, that right there is going to probably be the most cost saving out of all of the all the products, right? Because you're going to save a lot of time that the IT admin has to do to actually repackage everything. So I think it's going to be really cool once it comes out, and we should see it. Well, I guess you've got the slide coming up next.
Yeah. I'll share all the timelines. And then I don't have enough to speak on the cloud-based certificate management. Do you have anything that's been announced that we can detail?
There hasn't been anything that's been announced on this yet, but one of the biggest challenges that I've got with customers is, when we talk about the journey of going to Azure AD, one of the things that people forget about early on is wireless. And once they go down this path and they're testing out Azure AD, hey, everything works great. I can join a device. Intune's pushing things out, and everything's fine. I don't have any problems with it. Then it comes to wireless, and they're like, oh crap, we didn't think about our wireless connectivity. And wireless today requires radius, and it's requiring, you might use Microsoft's network policy server. You could use, some third party, and these solutions might require the domain computer objects. And so when we talk to customers about moving off of that and having to, go to something like EAP-TLS, which requires certs, making that shift has been difficult because they're not certificate experts. They might have a certificate authority, but no one's managing it. It's super old. There's just a lot of additional overhead that you have with having to manage those certs.
And it's all on-prem.
And it's all on-prem, right? So there's a certificate connector.
Yeah.
Yeah, so you got to install an NDES server. If you actually want to get those certs to your Intune devices, you have to install a certificate connector. You got to install an NDES server, a separate NDES server that you can't install the Intune certificate connector on. Then you have to install Azure App Proxy or a WAP in front of that. And so doing all of that extra infrastructure just for certs, it's a nightmare. So if Microsoft could provide you a cloud-based certificate server that's just sitting up in Azure, and your Intune clients can all just get the certs from there, that make things a lot easier. So that's the intent, is to provide the certs from there. Now, in terms of the implementation details and what that looks like, I have no idea. Haven't seen it yet. But if that does come out, that makes the shift from, like, if you guys are using like PEEP MS Chat v2 for your wireless auth, which isn't very secure, by the way. If you've been looking to go to EAP-TLS but haven't had an easy way to do it, this could provide that easy method to get there. So
that's the hope.
That's the hope.
We'll see.
So,
we'll see.
Yeah, we'll see when it comes out.
Awesome. Thanks, Richard. So really quick, just to show you guys kind of the timeline. So it is March, right? March 1 was when we made this announcement. There's a bunch of blogs I'll link out to and everything that you can go read up on. But you'll notice that the remote help is obviously available today. EDU is still kind of the weird oddball right now. So hang tight. Don't trial anything just yet. For that, just hang on. And that'll light up in your tenant. But the advanced endpoint analytics is available for trial, as well as Tunnel for Man. In April, so tentatively scheduled for next month, we will see the public preview of EPM. And EPM, it's going to be part of the 2303 release of March. So I guess here in a couple of weeks, we'll see that in public preview. And then in May, we'll also see the preview of the app catalog for patching applications. Again, that's just going to be a preview. And then later this year, you'll actually see that the advanced app management or third-party patching and EPM will go GA. So that's kind of the tentative timeframe for these things. So, I would say if you're looking at trialing any of this yet, hang tight, at least until EPM goes into preview and test that out. But I would even say start testing out things maybe over the summer or into the fall, when you can actually get a feel for some of these things. And again, we haven't even seen it. We don't have it lit up in our test tenants or anything like that. So it's hard to give you a lot of demos or anything. So we'll try to schedule some over the summer and into the fall, some more deep dives into each of these respectively. But you'll also notice that like remote help, Android and Mac OS support is coming by the end of the year. And then finally, this one's just another good slide. I'll throw it in here so that you kind of understand what are the different components or layers of like remote help, right? We'll see Android come into preview before GA for Mac OS, for example. So I like this slide just to kind of detail out what the timeline is. And then finally, just from a SKU perspective, because there is a cost to the Intune suite. What we have now is the Intune Plan 1. This is what everyone has today. It's part of your A3, A5 agreement. It's your core Intune functionality. This is now officially what you would call Intune Plan 1. Intune Plan 2 is going to include Tunnel for Man as well as specialty device management. That's one of the things that we also announced, which is being able to manage devices that are, I think they said 30 inches, screen size of 30 inches or more. If it's running a specific flavor of Android or something like that, think about kiosk terminals. I'm thinking like airport scenarios, things like that. Specialty device management is coming. One of the blogs links out with more details on that. You'll notice there's EDU pricing specifically for Intune Plan 2, which is 80 cents per user per month. for faculty and 60 cents per user per month for student. And then finally, the Intune suite, which is comprehensive of Intune Plan 2 as well as Intune Plan 1, plus all the other things that we talked about, like EPM, advanced app management, etc. And the pricing will be $2 per user per month for faculty and $1.50 per user per month for student. So there is a cost. We'll definitely be inquiring from you all on what you think the value of that is. I think all said and done, once everything is released, I think it's decent. But just know that Intune Suite is comprehensive of Intune Plan 2. Intune Plan 2 includes Intune Plan 1, right? It's kind of stacked that way. So yeah, there you have it.
Yeah, and so don't mistake that Intune Plan 2 has what we talked about, because it's really the suite.
Right.
As like you're really going to look at getting the suite. If you're looking at getting Plan 2, it's really for specific. There's like specific use cases for that, and for in terms of the future advanced capabilities that we have with asterisk behind it, I'm not exactly sure. No one here on this call knows exactly what those might be. It could be that we take some of the suite stuff that's there right on the right, and we move some of that stuff to the Plan 2. I don't know.
Right.
We'll just have to wait and see what that's going to be.
And we will be also offering this a la carte. I just don't have EDU pricing for a la carte. So you could actually purchase endpoint privilege management and just endpoint privilege management. I don't have the details on that, so I'm not presenting them today. Just know that if all you're interested in is EPM, you can purchase that a la carte. Now, not all of the features will be able to do that, only certain ones, but again, I don't have the EDU pricing for those. So to answer really quick, Kevin has a great question. So for the Intune suite coming from Intune Plan 1, is it basically $2.80 per user per month? No. Intune suite is comprehensive of Intune Plan 2, but the pricing aren't stacked. It's going to be $2 per user per month max. For faculty, $1.50 per user per month for student max, and that'll get you everything. So awesome. We have 10 minutes left, which I really think is all we need for the continuous innovation. But I'm going to pass it over to Richard to talk about that.
Sure. You want to forward the slide? Yeah.
Yep. There we go.
Actually, what was the other slide? Just go back real quick.
So this was just all the blogs. I will throw this into the chat for you all. You can go read the blogs, all of the announcements along the Intune suite. There's a lot of fanfare around it. I just collected it for you, so I'll throw that in the chat for you.
We need a snack. We need to make a snack.
That's right.
With all the stuff that we released.
You know what? I'll ask Harjit for that. Yep.
There you go. Okay.
There you go. All right.
So
turning it over.
So Scott had talked last time about continuous innovation. So with continuous innovation, this is a very boring way of just talking about the Windows moments, right? So if you follow the tech press, and they've been talking about this Windows moment thing for a while, and so when these moments come out, so February last month, that the third week of February is when we released the February moment for Windows 11. That release is actually going live today in Patch Tuesday. So today's the second Tuesday of the month. The features within that moment are now live in today's Patch Tuesday updates. However, if your devices are managed, and this is what Scott, I think, was talking about last week. He talked about the features, but also if the devices are managed, those devices actually won't have the features turned on, or at least they won't have all of the features turned on by default. If you want to turn those features on, there are two ways of doing that. And in the screenshot we have here in Intune, there's an option or a setting within Windows Update for Business that says allow temporary enterprise feature control, Windows Insiders only. This is no longer Windows Insiders only. This will work for devices that aren't in the Insider program as well. But this is where you'd want to go and set this to allowed, and this will allow those features to be turned on. This is a little bit different than how things have been done, like from Windows 7 to Windows 10. You really didn't have much of a choice for getting the release of, if you were blocking the deployments of 10, sure, but we actually opted everyone in. You had to go and block the deployment of Windows 10. Going from 10 to 11, we actually did the reverse. So if you wanted 11, you needed to actually opt in to get 11 on your devices. And it's the same for the features that are in these moments that we have. So February's moment, again, came out last month and it's going live today. You don't have to do anything for those managed devices. If the devices installed the update today, or if they installed it from last or the third Thursday, or I'm sorry, the third Tuesday of February, those features should not all have been turned on. So if you want them on, you have to go and actually turn them on through this policy and Windows Update for Business for Intune. There's also another, if you look at the screenshot just behind this, hopefully you can kind of read it, but it says enable features introduced via servicing that are off by default. If you are not keeping up to date with your ADMX files in group policy, you'll want to make sure to download the latest ADMX files. You can grab them from just a Windows machine. If you're like C Windows policy definitions, there's a folder in there. The policy definitions folder has all your ADMX files and all the ADML files for the languages. You can copy that directly to your central store in group policy on your domain controller. You can copy those there to make sure you're up to date, because if you don't have those copied, you won't have that enable features introduced via servicing that are off by default group policy. You won't see that there. So you need to make sure that you're keeping those up to date in the central store of your group policy. And so once that's done, then you can go and turn and enable those features if you want them on. Now, if you don't want them on, because it's in the middle of the school year and we don't want things to adjust for any of our users, what will happen is that when the next feature update is released, so next October-ish, if we look at the last two releases of Windows 11, the main feature releases were in October. When those releases come out, these new features that are turned on in the moment releases will be turned on. So if we release 2 or 3 moments during the year, those feature updates, the updates in those moment releases will be enabled in the larger feature release in October, because those big feature releases come out once a year. So we'll be turning all those on then. So if you do see the new moment releases as they come out, we just hit February. There could be one later on in the spring that comes out later, in maybe the May timeframe, somewhere around there. If something happens then, just know that you're not going to get, if you install your cumulative updates, we're not going to turn on those features immediately for you unless you've turned on these policies and said, yes, I want those features. And then we've got the links on the left there, just a number of different either blog posts or document links on the support pages to
it's the support docs,
help you understand how that process works. So you'll get those links in the deck after the call, and you can go visit them.
Yeah, and know that, again, these settings, they're done with group policy or with Intune, but within Intune, they're actually done with the settings catalog, right? So it's part of the Windows Update for Business, but it's not part of your update ring, right? So you'll actually want to go and look for the policy in your settings catalog.
Yeah, that's the weird little anomaly that we noticed, was like, why, like, the logical thing would be, let's put this in the update ring, but yeah, you do need to go into settings catalog to easily find this. You can also set it through a custom OMA URI, but
Sure.
who wants to do that? No one wants to do custom OMA URIs unless they absolutely have to. All right, Mark's asking a question. Will MS adjust Windows 11 ADMX to be backwards compatible with Windows 10? That's why we've held off on Windows 11 ADMX files. It's a good question. I don't know. It's not something I've looked into all that much. I see I have a link here to this tech community. Yeah, okay. I think I may have actually seen this one. I'm just going through that post that you posted in here. Yeah, unfortunately, Mark, I don't have a good answer for you right now on that one.
But Mark, throw it in the Teams channel, and let's see if we can follow up on it.
I think Scott just posted the same thing that Mark just posted. It's the same, yeah, same exact blog post. Okay. Yeah, it's just that there are some ADMX settings that aren't available in the Windows 11 ADMXs that are in Windows 10. And so I think the question is just when are we going to consolidate all that so you can just use the Windows 11 ones for Windows 10 and Windows 11 devices.
It's a logical question.
honestly, you could just combine them. The only problem is you might have some that overlap. I haven't looked too deep into this, but there might be some that overlap. And so you might have to go through each ADMX file and just determine what's doing what. But it's kind of a mess right now. It's not easy.
Laura, did you have a question? Do you want to come off mute?
Yeah, I don't
Well-
mind talking. I'm sorry. I just put it in the chat.
Okay.
If you turn it on in the future, will it back those features? Will it turn on previous features?
So you're saying if you turn on this policy and you set it to allowed, is it going to start turning the features on?
Mhm.
Yeah. So like if you decide in April that, hey, we've tested it on our machines in the IT department, or we've had some teachers that may have tested something out and we don't see any problems. In fact, they want some of these features because there's some accessibility stuff that's been added. Then, and you test all and it all works, then yeah, just go ahead and turn on the setting and then the features should light up. I don't know if a reboot's going to be necessary or not. I haven't had a chance to actually test how the whole thing works, but yeah, once you have those turned on, then I would imagine you probably do need a reboot for them to light up. But yeah, y'all do that.
I think that's a safe assumption.
Yeah.
Because I mean, the moments are mostly feature updates. So it's tweaking the UI, right? Like for example, tabs in File Explorer is one of the features that came in the last moment, and some things like that. So I would imagine it requires a reboot.
Yeah, what's interesting though is that some of the features in the moment release will actually be turned on, but others won't. And so it hasn't been super clear to me. And maybe there are docs out there and I haven't seen them yet. But it hasn't been super clear to me which will be and which won't be on. And so I'm trying to like test and validate, but that kind of stuff just takes time.
Awesome. Well, that is all that we have today, and we wrapped up just in time. So thank you all for joining Endpoint Office Hours. It is Pie Day, Taco Tuesday, so I hope you all get some tacos or some pie for dinner tonight, or both. And they don't really go together, but
I didn't say at the same
you
time.
love what you love, right? Say at the same time. Awesome. Thank you all for joining us. Hope to see you next week, or next 2 weeks, I guess. The 28th is when our next session is. And we'll send out a reminder email. As always, sorry I got that out late this morning, but I promise I won't do that again. So thank you all. Hope you have a great rest of your day and keep the conversation going in the Teams channel.
Awesome.
You guys-
Thank you.
See ya.
Take care, guys.